The belly button tickled the manor lay quiet beneath the silver glow of the moon. Tall stone walls loomed like ancient guardians, and the banners of the noble house swayed softly in the cold night breeze. Inside, torchlight flickered along the corridors, throwing restless shadows across carved beams and painted tapestries. It was a place of wealth and lineage, but also of strict order, yet not everyone that night respected such order. A slender figure in a pink silk gown tiptoed down a side passage, her dark hair hidden beneath a hooded cloak. She moved carefully, pressing against the wall whenever the torchlight wavered. She was the lady's daughter, barely 20 summers old, restless, proud, and more mischievous than a noble household could tolerate. Tonight, she dared to slip past the watch of her mother's household, out into the garden and beyond the gates. Her silk hem brushed the cold stone floor as she stole through a servant's door into the courtyard. The air was crisp, the night strangely alive, and she smiled to herself at her daring. For her, sneaking out was a game, an act of defiance against her mother's endless rules of grace, silence, and obedience. She lingered near the rose garden, inhaling the scent of midnight blossoms, before daring to peer out toward the road, but she was not as unseen as she thought. From the corner of the courtyard, a pair of sharp eyes followed her movements. A maid in a simple brown linen dress had spotted her, and though the servant said nothing, she turned quickly on her heel and hurried inside. There, in the solar chamber, the noblewoman in a deep crimson velvet gown sat before the fire, reviewing tomorrow's preparations. When the maid whispered what she had seen, the lady's eyes narrowed. Her golden hair, bound with a small circlet, gleamed in the firelight as she rose to her feet. The trap was set, the capture. The daughter returned not long after, her heart racing with the thrill of freedom. She slipped through the door, her silk dress rustling softly, her hood falling back to reveal her long dark hair. But as she entered the great hall, she froze. There, waiting by the torchlit pillars, stood her mother. Arms folded, eyes sharp, her crimson gown trailing across the stones like a pool of blood. "Where have you been?" the lady asked, her voice quiet but like a blade's edge. The girl swallowed, her cheeks warming. I only wished for air, my lady." "Air?" The noblewoman's tone cut deeper. "Does a daughter of this house creep like a thief through shadows, dressed in silk, with her honor exposed to the night?" The girl's lips parted as if to protest, but her mother's gaze silenced her. "You have been warned before," the lady said firmly. "Pride and disobedience are twins. Tonight, you will learn humility." She clapped her hands once. Two maids entered from the side door, their plain linen dresses swaying as they approached. The daughter's eyes widened. "Mother, no, please, I beg you." But the noblewoman's voice rang like iron. "Take her to the chamber. Tonight she shall know a discipline she will not soon forget." The chamber of discipline. The room they brought her to lay beneath the manor, torchlit and austere. Stone walls enclosed a space sparse but purposeful, a wooden bench, soft cords, and iron rings set into the floor. The daughter's pink silk gown shimmered in the firelight as the maids guided her forward. Her slippers slipped from her feet, and the cool stone kissed her toes. She struggled, her long hair spilling wild about her shoulders, but the maids were practiced and patient. With gentle firmness they bound her wrists above her head and secured her ankles so she lay reclined on the bench, the silk of her gown pulled slightly to reveal her midsection. The noblewoman entered last, her crimson velvet trailing behind her. She seated herself upon a carved chair, regal and still, her golden hair glowing in the torchlight. "My daughter," she said coldly, "tonight you learn that nobility is not privilege alone. It is restraint, honor, and obedience. You will laugh until your pride breaks." The girl twisted against the cords. "Please, mother, anything but this. It is shameful." "That is the point," came the reply, she nodded once to the maids, the belly button tickle the first touch came like lightning. A maid, kneeling at her side, brushed a goose feather slowly across her bare midsection. The daughter gasped, then giggled helplessly. Her belly tensed, her silk gown rustled as she squirmed, but the cords held. "Stop," she cried between bursts of laughter, "it is foolish, absurd, ha." The feather found its way to her belly button, circling, teasing, pressing ever so lightly. Her laughter burst forth uncontrollably, echoing against the stone. The second maid joined in, her fingers scribbling playfully along the girl's ribs, making her thrash violently. Her long dark hair flew about as her head shook side to side, tears of laughter pricking her eyes. "Mother! Please! I cannot bear it," she shrieked, but the noblewoman only sat calmly, her eyes stern, her hands folded in her lap. "You will bear it, until you remember your place. Let her laugh." The torment continued, feathers swirling inside her navel, fingers teasing along her sides. The girl's laughter turned to wild squeals, then hoarse giggles, her body shimmering with every shake of her pink silk gown. She tried to twist away, but every movement only exposed her belly further to the merciless attention. The breaking point minutes stretched like hours. Her strength waned, her voice cracked, and still the maids obeyed their lady's command. The noblewoman occasionally lifted a hand to pause them, only to order them to resume after a moment's rest, heightening her daughter's torment. At last, the girl's laughter collapsed into sobs. "Mother, I beg you. Forgive me, I will never disobey again." Her once proud tone was gone, replaced with desperate humility. Her hair clung damp to her face, her cheeks flushed and streaked with tears. The pink silk gown clung to her body, wrinkled and disheveled from her thrashing. The noblewoman rose. Her crimson gown rippled as she crossed the chamber, her golden hair catching the torchlight. She placed a firm hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Remember this," she said softly, though her tone held steel. "You are not a common thief to creep in shadows. You are my daughter, and your honor is this family's honor. Forget it again, and the lesson will be harsher still." The girl nodded weakly, whispering through ragged breaths, "Yes, mother. I swear it." Resolution. The maids untied her, rubbing her wrists gently where the cords had pressed. She slumped forward, clutching her gown around her, her head bowed. For the first time in many months, she did not argue, did not protest, but lowered her eyes in silent respect. Her mother studied her for a moment, then lifted her chin gently. "Good. Rise, child. You are noble when you remember humility." Together they ascended from the chamber. Outside, the faint glow of dawn was touching the horizon. The manor stirred with the sound of servants beginning their work. The young woman, humbled and exhausted, returned to her chamber. As she lay upon her bed, the memory of laughter still echoed in her ribs, in her belly, and most of all in her belly button where the torment had centered. She shivered and pulled the silk covers close, knowing the lesson would remain forever, and so, in the silence of the morning, the house's honor stood restored, and the noblewoman's justice prevailed.